Yeah, obviously getting to a point where we're excited that you kind of see the carrot at the end of all the work. And I debated a thousand times of kind of what the schedule should look like, um, beginning back in early August, knowing that the season was going to be delayed till the 19th. When we started, we weren't sure whether it was going to be the 12th or the 19th, and so you're uncertain. But the one thing I do know is the first day you go out and you put any type of pads on with coaching staffs and equipment, in people's mind, coaches and players, that clock has started, and that typical clock is a 4 week clock where you have 3 hard weeks and then it's game time. And I think we sensed a little of that last week, a little of the just the mental fatigue of, oh my goodness, we're on week 4 right now, and we still are 2 weeks out from playing a game. And so I think we kind of went through that lull. Even us coaches would admit that that was probably the toughest week. Hopefully, this week, this morning was just walk through and weights, but in meetings. Hopefully, this week it'll pick back up. Um, I think you go through in those difficult weeks like last week, every hurt is a little magnified, every injury is a little magnified, and the energy is a little down. We did finish with a very physical scrimmage at the end of last week that I was saw a lot of positive things in. Obviously, some things we've got to hopefully get corrected in next 2 weeks' times. But we'll turn our attention starting Wednesday to Western Kentucky, and hopefully get ready to go play that. We've been very blessed with our COVID testing protocol. It's been awesome, the results, and hopefully that will continue as we're testing 3 times this week, 3 times next week. So it'll be hopefully we'll continue getting the same results.
All right, first question comes from Jermaine at WFXR out of Roanoke. Jermaine, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. I hope you're doing well today, sir.
Good morning, brother. I'm doing good.
Good deal. Question for you. Last week, Liberty released that all the home games will be 1 o'clock kickoffs. They'll be afternoon kickoffs. Do you personally have a preference between day games versus night games? What's your preference?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been asked this a lot. You can't kick off early enough for me. I don't like sitting around the hotel all day. So I know that, but in typical times, which we're not in, when you're starting games in the month of early September, the heat can be an issue. So it's definitely better for fans at night. Us starting later in the year, I think, and the fact that as of right now we're limited as to the number of fans that you can have in our stadium. I think that makes sense for the visiting team to get back home. Obviously, more rest time for us also on the turnaround to the next week. So I'm a fan of it, but I do also understand in normal times there's definitely merit to having some night kicks also.
Thanks, sir.
Next question from Damian Sordelet, Lynchburg News and Advance. Go ahead.
Morning, Coach. So we've seen across the country there have been teams where they've had Black Lives Matter marches in place of practices, and it looks like Trayshawn Clark has been part of one that's organized for tomorrow at 10. Have you had a chance to talk with your players about that and the significance of participating in some form of support of that?
I openly talk to our players constantly, every day, about the issues that we face in life, and nothing is off limits. And hopefully they feel the same way to communicate with me and our staff in the same manner. So anything that is planned or will be planned, my prerequisite is always this. Whatever our message is, can we do it that honors God first, honors our university and our football team, and be unified in it? And so if anything like that is occurring or going to occur, hopefully it will go under those 3 things as we continue to talk through things today. But it's something that certainly, I think all of us here, bringing awareness to the social injustices that are in our world today. They're everywhere, and it's not just a Liberty issue. This is as good a place as any I've coached at treating others with respect. Can we all improve? Absolutely. And if we can help in some way bring awareness to that and support our kids, as long as it, again, honors God and our university and our team, and we can be unified on it, we will seek any way we can to do that.
Next question from John Manson, a Sea of Red.
Hey, Coach, good morning. Have you had any players that have opted out for this season?
Elisha Mitchell and one more, and Isaac Steele.
Go ahead, Damien.
And Coach, how's the quarterback battle going? You had mentioned that start of camp you were going to alternate first 7 practices with Malik and Chris, and now that you've gone through 2 scrimmages, has that battle kind of organically produced a starter?
It's getting close. I think I'm not sure when our next media get together is, but we're getting close. I would think it would be probably middle to late of this week where a decision will be made. It's been a great competition. I think both have strengths, and both still need to be more consistent in some areas. And hopefully we'll see what our instincts tell us right now. We hope to get confirmation of that this week, and then make that decision.
Back to John Manson now.
Hey, Coach, how are you in the kicker battle? I know that's another position you guys are watching as well.
Feel comfortable with Aiden and our snapper in Austin. Kickoffs have been solid. Field goals, man, we're battling. It's one day it looks good and one day it doesn't. So we got a good battle going on there. So we definitely need more consistency in that, or we'll be going for it on 4th down a lot.
All right, next question is from Johanna Nekrasov. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Tell us, first of all, if I did, and secondly, where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I just go by John, but I'm from the Liberty Champion. And my question is just kind of about the fan experience generally, and kind of how your players will be adjusting to that. Obviously, professional sports, is already dealing with what it's like to play without fans. How do you think your players are going to adjust to the different experiences around where you're going to be playing and at home that's going to be very different from what they're used to?
John, it will be very odd. I don't know. Obviously, I've never coached games in scenarios like which we're going to face at different places, and obviously, different places there are different amounts that are fans that are allowed to witness the game. I certainly hate it for our home because I thought we had a great home field advantage. Thought our students were incredible last year and making it difficult to play here. And so that's definitely, I think we lose an advantage playing at home with the current restrictions that we're under. So it definitely would be odd. We've talked about all of camp, and we'll really start talking about it this week of, we create our own atmosphere, we control that, and then hopefully the mindset becomes, it doesn't matter what the environment is like, we control our own energy. We don't have to depend upon a crowd to give it to us, even though it's nice when you play at home and you have some help with that. So we've got to just have a mindset of we create it wherever we are, home or away.
And back to John Manson now, again from Sea of Red.
Coach, have you had any injuries that should have, linger into maybe possible game time being missed?
Yeah, John, unfortunately, we've had, we've had a rash the last week and a half, and, all are kind of different on the time frame. Man, let's start in the receiver room. DJ Stubbs has got an ankle, Noah Frith a foot, that same foot. They were both out last week. Expect both of them to be back, hopefully for the first game. Believe they will. C.J. Daniels had a sprained MCL last week. He's having a really good camp too. I think he'll be back also. So I feel like those guys will be back in that room. We've been blessed at O-line. Tight end Trevor Hobbs tore his PCL, so he's going to be out for a while. Running back Frank Boyd's got a foot, but I think it'll take a little time, but don't know if he'll be ready for the first game. Defensively, it's D-line's pretty good. Let's see. Secondary, Emmanuel Dabney, Hunter Getz, Tim Kidglass, Scruggs. All of those have missed some time last week, and I'm just hopeful we can get those guys back and ready to go. So it's really been the receivers and the DBs have really been the hardest hit. Don't anticipate any of those being season ending. That's a good thing. Just hopefully we can get them back in the practice toward the end of this week or early next week.
So right now, Coach, not expecting anyone to miss the first game, hopefully.
If I were to ask Barry that, which I will probably in a couple of days, I think there's several on that list that are questionable for sure.
Okay, back to Damian now from the News in Advance.
Coach, you were able to add a graduate transfer in Cedric Stone from Georgia State this past week, and you also added a local defensive lineman, I think a couple of weeks ago, in Matt Terrell. Are both of those two immediately eligible to play, and do you see them contributing at all this year?
Yes and yes. I do. I think both will. They're both grad transfers. I think both will play. Matt's going to be on all the special teams for sure, and he plays hard, and he'll have a backup role also in the linebacker room. And then Sid, we needed some depth in the secondary, and so he's given us some depth there. So both will hopefully be ready to play.
As a follow-up, or any one of those part of the one initial that you said you had left?
Sid, yes.
All right, back to John from the Liberty Champion. Then we'll get to you, Travis, after that.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned some wide receiver injuries, and obviously you all are kind of looking to replace AGG's production from the past few years. Do you anticipate any of your incoming recruits in the first few games kind of having a possible role in kind of filling in there?
Yeah, I would say of the three guys we signed, Javion, Ahmad, and CJ, all three I think are talented. They're at different stages and have different skill sets, but definitely would expect them to help our production along with the guys you have returning like Stubbs and Shaw and DeMario and CJ Yarbrough, who has also been injured, but his was back in the summer. He's getting close to being released. So I think it's going to be a combination, a committee approach to replace the numbers that AGG put up. But the newcomers, I do feel good about. CJ was having an incredible camp before his injury, so hopefully he'll bounce back and continue to do what he was doing.
All right, now to Travis Wells, WDBJ7 in Roanoke.
Hey, Coach, I'm just curious if you had a chance to watch any of the games over the weekend. And I know there's another one tonight with BYU and Navy. Does that maybe give you that much more confidence that, hey, this thing is going to be a reality? We're actually going to get to play some football games given everything that's happened over the past several months?
I think you've got it pegged pretty good. I think all of us have still had these lingering doubts. Are we really going to get to do it? Are we really going to get to do it? And then when you see people doing it, it starts to feel real. So I did get to watch a little. I TiVo'd some, and they start too late for me some nights. But I hope this one tonight starts a little earlier. I'd like to watch it, but I did TiVo some and watched a few games, and it does make it feel a lot more real.
All right, still taking questions here for Coach. Damian, go ahead.
You'll have in the first 2 weeks some of your future opponents, like Western Kentucky, for instance, on Saturday against Louisville. Get a chance to watch them. Southern Miss played the other night against South Alabama. How much do you take into account that you're getting an opportunity to practice, rest some players, but also get a chance to scout some of these guys and see what characteristics they're throwing out there early in the season?
Well, I think that's the only one that probably plays a factor in is the Western game. By the time we play Southern Miss, we will all both have played some games, and you're certainly, hopefully, not the same team you were when you played week one. I think that, it could go one of two ways. Obviously, we could be more rested and more prepared, but also there's some advantages to actually having played a game and getting some of the kinks out and kind of seeing who you really are and what your strengths and weaknesses are and playing to them. So, Western will have that advantage that they've done it for real before they play us. We, on the other hand, have a little more time to prep and to hopefully be healthy. So which one is the better of the two? It's hard for me to say.
Back to John Manson from A Sea of Red.
With Emmanuel Dabney's injury at corner, how are some of those other guys? I know you got Jimmy Fox, but Chris Meganson, Isaiah Avery, and also those two true freshmen.
Yeah, Avery's another one I left off the injured list. He missed last week too, so we were very thin there. Quentin Reese has been he's everything we thought he'd be. Great signee. He's going to play as a freshman. Obviously, Jimmy and Megason has come on and played solid. Kamani Donaldson's gotten reps, and then we're rotating. Haskins over there too. He's learning both safety and corner.
Damien, go ahead.
Yeah,
Damien, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Sorry about that. With the NCAA essentially ruling this year as a free year for everyone with the waiver, does that give you more freedom to play these freshmen more than 4 games or try to get them some experience if they're ready?
Certainly. I mean, there's no need, and I mean, if they can help you and can help rest some people at areas that we're definitely thin at, you wouldn't hesitate to play them. I think it's you should play everybody that can help you win. Now, there's obviously some issues on the back end of this that are going to create coaches some angst and some worry as when they ask you to get back to the 85 in a time frame. That's not going to be the easiest thing probably, but you'll see. You have to see how many of your kids choose to stay that were seniors and compete for another year. So there's yes, we will play everybody that can help us. Some games on the road will be restricted, obviously, with travel squad limits and stuff like that. But definitely home games, you'll try to keep as many kids fresh as you can.
Go ahead, Damien.
I asked you this question a couple of weeks ago, and you didn't really have an answer to it. We've seen a lot of discussion in the last few weeks about what percentage of players testing positive would constitute not being able to play. Have you had a chance to talk with some of your colleagues from the SEC, from Conference USA days, Sun Belt days, to see what that might look like in terms of, like, is there a number or something that you guys are discussing that if you get to this point, you're not going to be able to play?
Yeah, obviously I talked to my SEC friends, and that they have an SEC policy that's cut and dry. So theirs is pretty clear. Ours, with us being an independent, that's something I probably need to visit with Ian on to kind of see, are we going by the conference that we're playing and their set standards in regards to what could constitute you not playing the game. I'm hopeful and prayerful that we won't have to ever consider that, but certainly needs to be discussed, and that's something I really haven't sat down and talked to Ian about at this point.
Coach, one for me about the quarterback battle. What you said that it's been good competition there. Maybe take me inside of that a little bit and just what you've been impressed with from both of those young men, and what do you think's going to decide it?
Well, there's just some have had really good days, and at the time the other may not have the best day, and it's gone both ways. And even JB's inserted himself into it. It's you know, and you look at the production chart from the big scrimmages we've had or the live periods where you're putting the ball down on the set of chains and you're having to function and move our offense into scoring positions, hopefully. We chart all of that out and kind of see where you are. And there's definitely strengths. You know, Chris is a more solid pocket passer. Malik is not that he's not able to. He's been probably a little bit more inconsistent with that, but then he adds great value also in what happens when the play does break down, or if you want to call quarterback runs. So it's just you know, it's gone back and forth, and it's healthy. They're both good leaders. They both care. They both want to do well. And again, JB is you know, wouldn't be afraid to put him in the game either. So I think we're blessed with some good options, but no question we've got to get more consistent. And I think as we turn our attention to a single game plan instead of us in a practice trying to get everything in, and you don't know what defenses you're going to see from because you're not worried about it. You're just trying to run a set of plays. Now, as we're trying to get a game plan in and start doing that the middle of this week, hopefully kind of what my gut says will be validated.
John from Sea of Red.
Coach, as you begin to game plan for that first game, do you envision any chance that you could have, you know, two quarterbacks playing in the game? You know, obviously not talking about an injury, but just going into the game with that possibly being a plan.
You know, that's I don't think so. I have always had, you know, I shouldn't say always, but many years have had two that would play in a given game. But it was pretty clear to our football team, you know, who we felt like the guy was for the scenario at the end of the game. You know, so I would not be afraid to play either. And if in early games, I could see if one is not playing consistent, letting him set a series or two and see if the other does it. Because I do believe this. I believe wholeheartedly that there are some guys that are just better on game day. I really do. I mean, I wasn't very good as a high school player. I was probably average at best, but I was a lot better on game day than I was at practice. And I've just seen it. I've seen it over and over again. Bo Wallace, who I love, if you would have come to practice, you'd have said, Coach Freeze, there's no chance you're going to win in this league with this guy. And then you turn the lights on and you get in the game, and the guy, he's a gamer. He plays. And so I believe that. And so should we get into a game and we're sputtering and playing inconsistent at that position, I would not hesitate to early in the season to say, man, let's give this other guy a shot and see what he does when it's real. I wouldn't say I go into, to answer your question, I don't know that I'll have a certain plan, but I'll be ready to pull that trigger if we need to see if we can get a spark by somebody else.
Damien, go ahead.
And when we talked to Kent Austin a few weeks ago, he said in the quarterback battle he wanted to see it come organically, and felt like after a few weeks having, you know, equal number of snaps, you would find the consistency where you're grading them. How's the grades looking so far? And when you're throwing Jonathan Bennett in there, how confident is he after that injury last year that he can go out there and make a good plan on that first throw and still feel good?
He's probably as confident as anybody with our system because he's had more reps and more snaps. So he's confident. It doesn't seem like he's favoring his injury at all. You know, the grades are very similar. The completion percentages, the production chart, turnovers, they're all very, very similar. and one day it's up on this one some, and the next day it's the next one of the three. So they're very similar. I think Kent and I we really haven't just sat down and had this conversation, but I think as we watch film, I think organically our gut is probably leaning in the same direction, and as to who will get the starting nod, and hopefully he'll produce and do well, but that'll probably come in the middle of the end of this week. I'd say end of this week.
We got time for one or two more. We'll get to Christian Wayner here from 90.9 The Light. Christian, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Coach. I'm actually from the Liberty Champion this year, but just wanted to know, with classes starting over the last 2 weeks and some of the online options that are now available because of the COVID regulations and everything, how has that practically affected your players' schedules and your training schedule, if at all?
It's definitely a different schedule for us, and we're fortunate that our school has the capability of doing virtual class, and our academic support system has been incredible to work with us on that, and to help us through that. But we're trying our best to maintain a bubble type approach as we're trying our best to be able to play the games that are on our schedule, and so. Fortunately, our school is very blessed to have the capability of doing that, and that's what our kids have done it for the most part. Christian, obviously, there's some that maybe they can't do virtually, a lab here, a lab there, or something. But for the most part, we're trying hard and just appreciate our nutritionist and the training table and our academics and everybody that's probably sacrificing to help us try to be healthy to play in the first game. But it's definitely been different and altered our schedule. So we're practicing in the mornings now, which is new for me in the season. I like it so far. We'll see how I feel going into week 8 after getting up every morning as early as we get up. But I don't know how that'll affect the players, but they seem to like it thus far.
All right, last one here from Damian.
Coach, you talked about the bubble, and you've talked about it all preseason, it seems like, about how anxious you are each day about, are the players following the guidelines you guys have set to make sure everyone's safe. And you were talking about how everyone's intertwined in college football because of when students come back. How does everyone respond and handle this? How do you feel you guys have handled this? And can you give us a little bit more detail? Are you guys still living all in the same dorms to mitigate the spread? Or are they back in student housing? And how is the virtual learning doing for these guys when they're so used to being in a classroom with other students?
Yeah. Well, on the virtual learning, every indication is that it's going well, but it's so early they really don't have any grades yet, so I don't have any tangible other than just talking to the academic support system. They feel that it's going as well as it could thus far, but again, really have had no real grade reports yet for us to look at. Our living, we live together, whether it's 2 kids in the dorm or 4 in the quads or in an apartment, off campus. Our team lives together, so we try to keep them together all day long, and then pray and hope they make great choices when they leave here. And so far, again, we've been blessed the last few weeks to have great results in our testing protocols, and hopefully that'll continue as we pick it up to doing multiple tests per week